Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for another Sega Saturn review, and I was kind of umming and ahhing over what game to do today. So in the end I've decided to go for the title known as Blast Chamber, which is a futuristic sports game, as it says on the back of the case, set in 2096, where the idea of the sport is to have a bomb strapped to yourself and you must try and escape each level basically before the bomb explodes. Originality was definitely something that was there in the 32-bit era, I felt, and this is definitely one of the most original games from that time. So once the opening cinematics are done, we're met with the Blast Chamber title screen, and we head into the main menu where we can see we've got chambers, games, load your save data, options, multiplayer training and solo training. So heading into the options, it's pretty simplistic stuff. We can change the difficulty. There's 4 base levels for difficulty on the game. We can check our control pad configurations. We can view statistics for the levels, and we can also change the volume of music and sound effects. Now, one thing that confused me a little bit to begin with was the main menu and the way it kind of operates. Instead of just selecting a mode from the main menu and then progressing with the game, you select one, then you can input the levels that you want to do if it's not the main one-player game. So if it's the multiplayer game or the free-for-all game, you can select the levels that you do for it, but you can't select the ones for the main one-player mode. This confused me to start with, and I'm pretty sure it's probably confusing other people. It's not a very user-friendly interface, in all fairness, for selecting what you want to do. But the main mode will see you battling through approximately 40 levels, where the idea is to escape each one before the timer runs out and the bomb on your chest explodes. So then, moving on to the important stuff about how this game looks, how it plays, sounds, what kind of lifespan you can expect to get from this game, and is it worth playing today? Well, in the looks department, I cannot deny that Blast Chamber looks pretty dismal overall. There isn't really a lot to be impressed here by. Whilst it runs pretty well and there's no issues there, the quality of the graphics for your main character are absolutely hideous. They are such low quality, lack of detail there. It is so disappointing that this game looks how it does. The areas aren't too bad, but there's definitely nothing to write home about here, and it's really disappointing because there's so little really for the Saturn to have to process in a game like this. It really, for me, should have been the kind of game that the Saturn should be able to display in its high resolution mode and run absolutely fine. We saw what could happen with like Virtua Fighter 2, Athlete Kings. Those games look fantastic in high resolution, and there's so little here. I really feel this game could have been a title that impressed us in that regard. I mean, even the menus don't look very good. It just has this low quality look through and through. It's very difficult to really say anything good about Blast Chamber in the looks department. So, how does the game sound? Well, haven't really got a lot to say about that either. The generic sound effects are reasonable. Again, nothing special. The music tracks, I feel some of them would be more fit in for something perhaps like Wipeout or High Octane. I don't really think they're that, I don't know, suitable to a game where you're under massive pressure because you've got a bomb strapped to your chest and you're just about to explode. I just don't feel like they really give the game the right feeling. But the best thing I can do is play you a few of those tracks and you can decide for yourself. So for how uninspiring it looks and perhaps less than suitable music score for the game, the crucial thing is how does it play, because a game is really playability based really in terms of how much enjoyment you can get from it, and unfortunately Blast Chamber kind of falls flat on its face in this regard. The general gameplay is pretty lackluster. It's very simplistic to play in terms of moving your character, jumping, and you've got a button to push other people out the way as well. That's really it. The other buttons can slightly alter the camera view. It's pretty simplistic. There's no real problems with that. It's the fact that you just do not feel like you have great control of your character. It feels very floaty, less than responsive, really not ideal whatsoever. And unfortunately the graphics being so poor, especially on your character, really hinder the gameplay slightly as well, because you're not quite sure where you are sometimes in terms of making jumps, and you might fail jumps, you might die, and it all becomes a bit frustrating in all fairness. Now in terms of actually things that affect the gameplay, there's other bits and bobs in the game. You can go on the arrows, they rotate the rooms, there's spikes, there's traps, there's all that kind of stuff which give the gameplay a bit of variety. You can get power-ups to increase your speed and increase your jumping and increase your time that you've got before you explode, but unfortunately the way it controls brings it down and really hinders your enjoyment and hinders the pleasure that you're going to get from the game. So in terms of lifespan and things to do, it's probably the strongest aspect of the game. You've got a little training mode which can get you started. It is actually very short, very simplistic. It's just a question of telling you exactly what you need to do to escape each level and live. It's pretty simplistic. There's the other modes as well. We've got the free for all and the multiplayer options as well, which is probably where you'll get most of the lifespan from the game if you can get other people to play with you. Now you can play the multiplayer games with the computer characters as well, basically yourself and 3 others, and they're pretty much a case of last one standing wins. You can do tournaments as well, and you can keep on going. You can choose the amount of levels that you want to do for these modes of play, so it does add a little bit of variety, but again I kind of feel the frustrating controls really affected the enjoyment even for this part of the game as well. So yes, there's things to do. Yes, there's over 40 single player games. You've got the traded, you've got multiplayer options as well, but it's the fact it doesn't play particularly well which kind of hinders the lifespan of the game too. Now I'm not going to lie, I only spent probably about a couple of hours in total playing this game before I came up with my review, and that's pretty much, I felt, all I needed to see everything that the game had to offer and really come up with my opinions based on that. It doesn't look very good and it doesn't play very good, and the fact it doesn't play very good is the major downfall in my opinion. It's a really original game, and if they'd really kind of fine-tuned it in many ways, especially gameplay, then it could have been a decent title, but as it is, it's pretty mediocre. Came out on the PS1 as well, and those versions in comparison wise, the PS1 version got a slightly higher score, so maybe it looks slightly better, as tends to be the case with multi-platform versions of games back then. But that is just my opinion, of course. If your opinions differ from Blast Chamber, then let me know down below with a comment, and as always I will be back again soon for another Saturn review and some more roulette videos, but until then, goodbye for now.